In the year 2018, I was going through a bit of a breakup and living in New York. And my friend was like, hey, they're doing a 35 millimeter screening of the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Do you want to go see it? And it was pretty ironic and funny to be going through all these intense personal feelings and then go to see the SpongeBob movie in theaters. And it was funny, it was 35 millimeter, it was on film, so it had all this film grain and scratches despite it being a digital movie, which was pretty funny. But anyways, we saw it, and afterwards Derek Dryman, who is one of the creators and writers on SpongeBob, did a Q&A. And one of my favorite things he said is he said that they were never writing a kid's show or a kid's movie when it came to SpongeBob. In the writer's room, they were just trying to make each other laugh. You know, when they were storyboarding, they were just trying to make each other laugh. And I think that just shines through. If you watch the first 3 seasons of SpongeBob, it's just so funny and creative in a universal way, not in a way that's like you have to dumb your brain down, in a way that's just innately funny. And it was nice to laugh that week because it was a very sad week. And it took me back to watching the movie as a kid and burning the DVD out with my friend Gabe. We turned on that movie all the time and then went to the Goofy Goober rock scene and just played that over and over again. And I think it's because it's such a phenomenal ode to childhood spirit and freedom. You know, it's kind of beautiful. You know, SpongeBob oftentimes isn't really about anything. It's just about joy and fun. And sometimes perhaps the movie is no different, but then it comes to this scene of the Goofy Goober rock that it's like this whole movie that's built around this idea that SpongeBob needs to grow up and be mature is saved by him just saying, fuck it, let's goof around, sing a goofy song, embrace being a kid. And to hear that as a kid when you're being fed all these stories of maturity and coming of age and growing and losing your innocence and all this stuff, it was nice to be reminded that you can still just be a kid sometimes. You don't need to lose that part of yourself. You don't push it down too much. And I think that message resonates until you're 80 years old, 90 years old. I think keep the kid alive, because the kid inside you is the one that'll laugh at stuff even when you're going through really hard times. And last week I had the pleasure of seeing it again live, but at a theater showing in LA at the Greek Theater. It was sitting on a lawn at Tom Kenny's band. If you don't know Tom Kenny, who voices SpongeBob, has a big 12-piece big band where they do big dance or old rock and roll music and stuff. And he has so much energy. He's 60 years old. I don't know how he does it, but I've seen them perform probably 4 times now, and it's just such a fun show. I strongly recommend it. But anyways, they performed before the movie, and there was a special moment where, you know, the first couple songs, everyone was just kind of seated on the lawn, and there was a big empty space in front of the stage. And my friend Kevin Sloan was visiting. We were like, hey, should we go dance? Anyway, I was hesitant. I was nervous. I'm let's just go do it. And Kevin and I started dancing. And lo and behold, after just him and I dancing no one's watching for one song, 4 people came up, then 10 people came up, and it just formed a giant 100-person mosh pit in front of SpongeBob's band. And it was so fun. He came down in the crowd, and he does a lot of these old 50s, 60s sort of rock songs. But he closed the show with Best Day Ever and a couple other songs from SpongeBob, and he was in the audience with an audience of majority 20-somethings, 30-somethings, people who grew up with SpongeBob. There was some kids there, but it was definitely a lot of older people there, which was fun. And it just felt like everyone was letting the kid inside them dance again, kind of poetically like the movie. And there was a part where he was singing Best Day Ever and then throwing it to the crowd and singing it and throwing it to the crowd with all of us around him. And he changed it to Best Night Ever, and it just felt like such a moment. And it was a really beautiful moment. And Tom Kenny's the best. I've had the pleasure of getting to know him and going to his shows and going to wrestling matches with him, I've mentioned before, and he's one of those meet your heroes guys. It's like, no, definitely meet him rather than like people say don't meet your heroes. You want to meet him if you can. Just go to one of his shows or something, because he's such a ball of energy, and he loves spreading that joy of just carefreeness. It's almost poetic. He said at the concert that he hadn't watched the SpongeBob movie since 2004, but it's funny that he also kind of embodies this childlike wonder and energy and never let that go, and it's almost beautiful that him and this character share that. And then we watched the movie, and as a flat-out review of the movie, after watching it probably the 12th time, all these different stages in my life, I think it's the funniest movie ever made. If I'm being honest, there's not a miss. You know, every scene is jam-packed with jokes. I'm laughing start to finish. There's so many good beats and characters and plot points. It's just so well paced, so well structured. I think it's a perfect movie. I think it's a hilarious movie. I don't laugh more at any movies. Like, I was thinking of my favorite comedies, like the Naked Gun movies or Top Secret or anything like that. I'm like, there's way more misses in those movies and moments that don't make me laugh that much on a rewatch or this or that. But SpongeBob, start to finish, so many great character like stills, like when Plankton looks at his hands and then they bring that back later when they talk about his tiny hands. Like, that's just such a perfect little moment that like talks to like our little insecurities, and it communicates it so well. And I think in a way, I think I laughed harder at SpongeBob now than I even did as a kid, because there are these things that you're like, I could see why a bunch of adults in the writing room were dying laughing about this, because there's layers to it that you might not pick up on as a kid. And yeah, I adore the movie. I think the David Hasselhoff bit at the end is like sort of like a very early example of like meme humor, like a cameo for the fuck it sake of it. And of course comedies have had that for a long time, but it just felt especially memey and ahead of its time to, you know, pair David Hasselhoff and SpongeBob, you know, as like a total, and then to have the giant, like, I love the behind the scenes photos of the giant David Hasselhoff statue they made or to film on, and then his pecs, like the stop motion effect on his pecs or whatever they did. It's just so fun. And you could tell they had fun making it, and you know, it was supposed to be sort of a last hoorah to SpongeBob. Steven Hillenburg, I think, had planned that to close it out. And of course, Nickelodeon's like, hey, don't do that because we want to milk this forever. And it's crazy that SpongeBob is still getting new episodes to this day. I haven't watched any since season 3 or whatever. But yeah, it feels like a closeout to that era of my childhood, and something I could always revisit. And I said in my Letterboxd review that if my life is full of screenings of the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, then I'm a lucky man, because they keep happening to fall in special, essential little moments in my life, and it's such a nice evening. And it might be hard to top Tom Kenny performing beforehand and then sitting on the lawn with my friends and watching it, but heck, even a quiet little screening in a theater somewhere would still be funny as hell. So yeah, I love the SpongeBob movie. It's a movie I'll watch probably until I'm dead, whenever that comes, hopefully later in life. But yeah, thanks Steven Hillenburg and everyone who made that movie. It's really special, hilarious, the best of the best of all of these amazing characters. It's just like them shining their brightest. And hell yeah. Okay. I love you guys. I love SpongeBob. I love movies. Have a nice day.